I need you to get your hands ready and your legs ready. Let's go! Get ready to jump, 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 jump. Get ready, we jump. You make the darkness run and hide. You bring the broken back to life. Only you can, only you can. You set me free from every chain. You fill my heart with songs of praise. Only you can, only you can. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. You ready to jump? You left the glory of your throne to bring this runaway back home. Only you can, only you can. You give me love, you give me life, you keep me dancing through the night. Only you can, only you can. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling out your name. Good, keep it going. We jump. Clap your hands. All right, we're gonna sing Jesus. Here we go. Jesus, you're the only reason that I'm even breathing. I am wide awake. Move those feet. You move me. Your freedom is consuming. I feel you rushing through me. I'll never be the same. My heart beats only for your glory. My hands reach up for you to hold me. My soul sings, Father, you are holy. My feet dance to your rhythm, to your rhythm. Every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling out your name. Every beat is calling out your name.
Hi, RiverZone. I hope you've had a great week. I sure have. I'm still up in the mountains. And you all have been back in school for a while. And I'm guessing that everybody's doing something a little different maybe, which is history making. I would like to see how many of you are homeschooled. If you're doing school at home, jump up and down for me. Let me see if I can see all of you. I see some of you are jumping. Now, if you are doing school virtually on your computer with a class and with a teacher, but you're learning at home, let me see you do 5 jumping jacks. Awesome. And then some of you are at school face-to-face. You're back in your classrooms. If that's you, stand up and spin around in a circle. Wow. So you're back at school and learning so many things. I bet you're doing reading and phonics and spelling and vocabulary. So I'm going to ask you a question. I want to know what the word promise means. What is a promise? So when someone makes a promise, They say they're going to do something or be somewhere or not tell other people. People make promises all the time, but how's that different than just saying you're going to do something? A promise is serious, isn't it? If someone tells me that they're coming to my house at 12 noon and they promise they'll be there, I'm going to believe them. They might say to me, oh, I want to come by and see you sometime. Well, that's very different than saying, I promise I'm going to be there at noon. So a promise is something you should be able to count on, right? How many of you have made promises before? I totally have. How many of you have broken a promise? Breaking a promise means that whatever you promised, you didn't do it. Sometimes things happen that cause us to have to break a promise, and it feels really bad when that happens. Now I want you to raise your hand if someone has ever promised you something, but they broke their promise to you. And you were really disappointed. And it makes it hard for you to know if you can believe that person. But the truth is, sometimes things happen that cause us to have to break our promise. Like if I did promise to come to your house at noon and my car broke down on the way and I was late, there's nothing I could do about that. Or if I promised that I was going to teach a certain class and then the class was canceled, that's not my fault. So sometimes promises get broken, but there is one who has never ever broken a promise and can never break a promise. Can you guess who that is? That's God. God is the promise keeper. He cannot break a promise. And it's an amazing thing to know this is true about God. We've talked about how good He is, how awesome He is. And today we're going to talk about how faithful and reliable He is. If God says it, we can believe it. Well, there's a true story in our Bible study today. Excuse me, I'm reaching for my Bible. And it really happened. These were real people, and the events really happened in history. But it really looks like God is not keeping His promise. And it appears to the person that we're going to read about that God is not doing what He said He'd do. And we know there's many different ways that God speaks to us. In this story, true story, God speaks to someone in a dream, more than one dream. That's right. We're going to talk about the story of Joseph. So in this Bible, it says that Joseph is the dreamer. Jacob is the dad, and he lived in the land of Canaan, and he had 12 sons, and Joseph was one of the sons. Now Jacob loved Joseph more than all the other children. I'll let you know that's trouble right there. Moms and dads love all their kids differently, but they do love them all completely. So remember, Jacob ends up giving Joseph a dream coat, like a beautiful, beautiful coat made with many, many colors. I can remember learning about this when I was a kid, the coat of many colors, Joseph. Well, the brothers were already jealous by that time and felt left out and felt like, why didn't they have a coat like that? But to add to the trouble, then Joseph had a special dream, and it was a dream that God gave him. A God-given dream is very special. It's kind of different than other dreams. And Joseph was excited about it, so he told his brothers about it. But here's what the dream was. He told his brothers, "We were gathering grain in my dream. My grain stood up, and your grain all bowed down to mine." Do you see the bales or the sheaves of grain? and one is standing up, and the others are all bowing down. Well, that sounds to the brothers like Joseph is saying, you're going to all bow down to me. Then Joseph had another dream. Here's the brothers looking very unhappy. Joseph had another dream. He said, the sun and the moon and 11 stars bowed down to me. So 11 is how many brothers he has. So now it sounds like he's saying again that they're going to bow down to him, and the brothers didn't like his dream and they were jealous. But Joseph knew God gave him that dream, and how exciting is that? And how is that going to come true? Well, it didn't look like it was going to come true at all, because the brothers were so jealous that they hatched a terrible plan. They were talking about even killing Joseph, but they ended up selling him to some traders as a slave. And those traders took him all the way to Egypt. This was before Moses. So Joseph had a really hard time in Egypt. Even though he was really good, he was sold to a rich man, and he took him to work for him, and then someone told a lie about Joseph. It was completely a lie, and blamed Joseph for doing something that he didn't do at all. And it was serious enough that Joseph got put in jail, and he was innocent. But God was still there. God was in Joseph. And even though Joseph was in jail, God gave him favor so that the other prisoners and even the guards really liked Joseph. Well, one of the prisoners was a butler. And before he was in jail, his job was to bring the king of Egypt something to drink. And one night, the butler had a dream. And the butler dreamed that he was taking the king a drink. There it is. And he thought that was amazing. He had this dream that he was back at his job, taking the king a drink. So Joseph said, you know what? That means you're going to soon be out of jail, and you'll get your job back again. And the butler did get out of jail. And Joseph had said, will you please tell the king about me when you get out of jail? But the butler didn't. He didn't remember. And then the king ended up having a dream. The king had a dream that 7 fat, juicy ears of corn, see the corn? Sprung up, and they were growing on one stalk. And then 7 thin ears of corn grew up, and they swallowed up the fat, juicy ears of corn. Do you see those, I know, rotten ones, little shriveled up ones, gobbled up the big ears of corn. And then he also had another dream about cows. He dreamed that there were 7 fat cows, but 7 thin cows gobbled up the fat cows. And the king knew that there was something about these dreams that were different than his other dreams, and he was really bothered by them. But the butler heard about it, and that's when he remembered Joseph. And he went to the king and he said, I think I've got somebody who can tell you what your dreams mean. And so the king sent for Joseph, and Joseph said, I know exactly what your dreams mean. Your dreams mean that Egypt will have 7 good years. Well, there'll be plenty of food for everyone, and there'll be then 7 bad years where there will not be any food growing at all. The king could tell that Joseph was really wise. There was something about him. So he let Joseph come out of jail, released him from jail, and put him in charge of making sure that when the 7 lean years came, that they would save up enough food so that no one would starve. Well, that was in Egypt. But when the bad years came, and other places like Canaan, who lived there, Joseph's family, they didn't have the food. And they knew they had to go to Egypt and buy food there. They didn't know Joseph was going to be there. They thought Joseph was long gone. The brothers didn't know anything about it. They thought they had taken care of him. They were certainly never going to bow down to him. Well, Joseph's brothers did go to Egypt, and they went to see the person who was in charge of having enough food stored up to be shared so no one would starve, and we know who that is. It's Joseph. And the brothers weren't expecting to see him, so they didn't even recognize him. And look at them. Do you see them in this side? What are they doing? They are bowing down to him. Right in that moment, Joseph's dream came true. Even though Joseph was sold into slavery, when God had told him that he was going to do really well, even when he was thrown into jail for doing something that he didn't do, it really looked like there's no way that what God showed him in the dream was going to happen. But it did. The brothers didn't recognize Joseph, but he recognized them. So he gave them food, and the brothers went back home again, and it wasn't long until they needed more food, and they went back to Joseph, and again they bowed down to him. So 2 dreams, twice they bowed down, and Joseph's dream really, really happened. And this time Joseph told them that he was their brother. He even got reunited with his dad. So God's promise, what Joseph dreamed about, that dream that God gave him, it really did happen. It happened in his lifetime. Boy, were the brothers afraid when they found out that was Joseph, because here he now had all this power, and they sold him as a slave. What was Joseph going to do to them? But Joseph ended up saying to them, you don't have to be afraid. You meant to harm me, but God took all of it and used it for good. And I ended up being able to be part of the saving plans of all these people. And I think about salvation and saving, I think of Jesus. Wow. It looked like when Jesus died on that cross that all the words he said weren't going to come true. But God had a greater plan. Boys and girls, you can always trust God with his word. His promises in the Bible are true, and he'll keep them. It may look different than you're expecting, like what happened to Joseph. But God cannot lie, and he'll always keep his promises to you.